you probably met Vonnegut also through reading his books, assigned in high school or college, or read independently, depending on your age. If you read Slaughterhouse-Five, the most well-known, you also know the experience that drove him to write that book, because he introduces it in the opening chapter. As a 20-year-old American of German ancestry in World War II, he was captured by the Germans and taken to Dresden, which was then firebombed by the British and Americans. He and his fellow prisoners, taken to an underground slaughterhouse, survived. Not many other people, animals, or vegetation did. That event, and others, fueled his writing and shaped his views. It did not, however, as is often assumed, initiate it. He was already headed in the direction of being a writer when he enlisted. I intend to guide you through the maze of his advice like a director puppeteer, relating experiences from his life when they shed light on how he obtained the wisdom he imparts, specifying, insofar as possible, from what point in his life a piece of advice derived, as a beginner, mid-career, or a mature writer, and telling anecdotes about him and from my own life when relevant. I was asked to write this book at the behest of the Vonnegut Trust. Dan Wakefield was supposed to do it, but exhausted from compiling two other marvelous books of Vonnegut work, Letters, an annotated selection of letters, and If This Isn't Nice, What Is?, an anthology of speeches, and yearning to return to his own fiction, he phoned me. "You're the perfect person to do this book," he said, persuasively. "You've been a teacher of writing, you're a fiction writer yourself, you were his student, and you knew him. It's a great fit." About 60% of it had to be the words of Kurt Vonnegut. Otherwise, how it was composed would be entirely up to me. All I had to do, Dan said, was write an introductory proposal and send it and the profiles I had published on Vonnegut in the Brooklyn Rail and Writer's Digest as evidence of my capability and writing style to the head of the Vonnegut Trust, Vonnegut's friend and lawyer Don Farber, and the e-book publisher Arthur Klebanoff, head of Rosetta Books. Dan Wakefield had already told them about me. A month later, while volunteering at the Kurt Vonnegut Museum and Library table at the Brooklyn Book Fair, the library's director, Julia Whitehead, introduced me to Dan Simon, the founder of 7 Stories Press, who had published the final 2 books by Vonnegut and knew him well. I explained this project. Simon murmured, "I'd love to publish that book." The result was a new contract between the Vonnegut Trust, Rosetta Books, 7 Stories Press, and myself. Voila! Whatever form you're reading this in, we've got you covered. Wilfrid Sheed said of Vonnegut, "He won't be trussed up by an ism, even a good one. He preferred to play his politics and even his pacifism by ear." Vonnegut was prone to seeing the other side of the coin, ambiguity, and contradiction. He had, after all, been captured, imprisoned, and forced into labor carting corpses by an enemy regime rotten with idolatry, decayed by a people's desire for easy, authoritarian solutions. He would appreciate this palindrome by Swiss artist André Tompkins, "Dogma, I am God." For my part, I want to avert, as much as possible, my own and the reader's impulse to make dogma out of Kurt Vonnegut's advice. One way I hope to accomplish that is by adopting the concept of endarkenment. It's borrowed from Profound Simplicity by Will Schutz, published in 1979. The one book that gives meaning to the human potential movement, according to the cover. Schutz, a leading psychiatrist in that movement, lists his credentials.